Septima lies dead, entombed in flowers and an old tree stump, tombed to 2 others before her. Gera stands guard, waiting for his friends to return. We will leave them there for now. Today, let us join the other 3, Calla, Merrick and Alistair, as they were hot on the trail of a fey presence Merrick had caught with his primeval sense. This time it was about half a mile from them, and static. The group took off running, hopeful that whomever this was, they could bring Septima back. They crashed out of the trees into a glade. The sun dappled the ground, which was now firm underfoot. At some point they had crossed out of the marshlands. They were not alone. Also in the glade were 2 half-elves, 1 male, 1 female, and a tiny owlbear cub with whom they were playing. Merrick and Alistair had no idea who they were, but both were familiar to Calla. Talia, the bard from the Scarlet Sun Carnival, and Elrahir, the ranger who had aided Calla and Septima in clearing out the bullywugs from an area of the marsh. The owlbear, Eldrin, was his, the baby rescued by the 3 after its parents were killed. Calla wasted no time in asking Talia if she could help. Talia inquired where her friend was, and Calla replied that they had been trying to acquire an arcane core from within a corrupted tree when Septima was killed by some sort of magic. Talia asked if she was in the tree, to which Alistair replied that no, she was now in a different tree under a mountain of flowers. Talia explained that she might be able to resurrect Septima, but it would require a diamond worth at least 1,000 gold pieces. She had no such diamond on her, but she did know where one might be acquired. Whilst performing at a ball for the aristocracy in Port Corython, one of the male attendees drunkenly propositioned her, boasting that he had a home hidden away between Candlemarsh and Shimmerglade, where he liked to carry out business he needed to keep off the books. Talia had knocked him back, but knew the house was very close to where they were now. She suspected it would be protected by some means, whether magical or otherwise, and the group should do their best to leave no trace. Naturally, they asked if Talia could accompany them, as they were now down to 3. She explained that she couldn't, as, if she were caught, she would bring disrepute to the Scarlet Sun Carnival, and that would have serious consequences. She volunteered Elrahir to go with them instead. Whilst he has travelled with the carnival, he was not a member and therefore not subject to the same regulations. Talia offered to babysit Eldrin, and Elrahir agreed to go. He'd liked Septima and felt that potentially saving a life was a worthy cause. Talia asked that if they were caught, they please not mention her name. After reassuring her, they set off in a northerly direction, where she'd indicated there were some illusory trees hiding the house. As they walked away, they could already see her tying one of her brightly coloured scarves in a lavish bow around Eldrin's neck. It was a matter of minutes before they found themselves able to walk with ease through what looked like a thick copse. A little paved pathway appeared beneath their feet, leading up to the impressive front door of a large 2-storey house. The group moved stealthily, Elrahir going one way and the rest the other, inspecting the outside of the building. They met up at a back door, having found nothing more than windows with no signs of life. Elrahir thought it wise to ritually cast Detect Magic, while Alistair checked the back door. He discovered it was locked, but not trapped. He waited until Elrahir finished his spell, revealing nothing magical other than Calla and Merrick, the crown of the seer on Calla's head giving its own distinct aura. With some difficulty, Alistair unlocked the door. It felt like his picks were about to snap when the lock gave, and the door swung open. As it did so, Elrahir detected a magical ping. A timer began to tick down. 2 hours. The group snuck in through the lead-lined door, finding themselves within a small conservatory. There were plants, which Calla recognised could be harvested for pigment, but that had no other practical use. There was a bench with a shovel, a bucket and a pickaxe on it. The group continued to the next door, Calla deciding to wait until they were on the way out before seeing what she could gather. Alistair inspected it. Not locked, not trapped. Through they went. The next room they entered appeared to be the main entrance hall. A large rug covered the floor, 3 interior doors leading off, and a flight of stairs going up. A display cabinet stood at the back of the room. Magical lights brightened the interior. Alistair went to investigate. The cabinet was locked, but the contents could clearly be seen through the glass windows. A wooden tribal mask, hand-painted, a large drinking horn delicately carved, an onyx statuette of a cocker spaniel. Alistair picked the lock with ease, choosing to take all 3 items. Whilst he did this, the others waited, watching. Alistair investigated the first door. Not locked or trapped. Opening it, it seemed to lead into a bathroom, and a quick glance was all he needed to decide there was nothing of interest in there. The next door, again, not locked or trapped. Elrahir followed him closely, the 2 of them stepping gingerly on the edge of the ornate rug. Suddenly, it moved, attempting to wrap itself around Alistair, but he was able to dodge. The rug of smothering, having missed its target, was now last in the initiative order. It was defeated before it even got another chance to strike. The group were uninjured, but it made them even more wary as they progressed through the house. The next room they entered was the kitchen. Seeing no diamonds, Alistair was eager to press ahead. Merrick and Calla were more curious, noting that there was a freshly baked cake and a stoppered jug on the counter, indicating that there had been recent occupation. There were other utensils on the sides and a blazing fire with a pot that seemed to be empty. Calla went to take a closer look at the jug. Seeing that it contained only water, she turned to leave, noting that as she did so, her feet seemed to be sticking to the floor. Glancing down, she saw a pool of sticky caramel had dripped onto the floor, holding her in place. Merrick watched as the cake slowly rammed into Calla, dealing a few points of bludgeoning damage. He raised his bow, loading an arrow and firing. It hit the cake, slowly being absorbed into it as the sponge and icing seemed to pull it in and wrap around it. Calla tried to get free, but wasn't strong enough to evade the caramel. Alistair was investigating the 3rd interior door in the hallway, finding it unlocked and seemingly untrapped. He and Elrahir, hearing the commotion, joined their friends in the kitchen. They were surprised to see Merrick and Calla engaged in battle with a cake. The oozing caramel began to spread, forming a sticky layer that made it difficult to move. Merrick attempted to pick up the cake and transfer it to the fire, whilst Alistair pulled Calla free from the caramel. Elrahir kept his distance, shooting arrows. Whilst the cake was certainly taking hits, it seemed not to be taking much, if any, damage at all. Merrick managed to detach himself from the cake, but the fire seemed to have no effect as it continued to slither across the floor. Calla became stuck once again. Whilst Alistair stabbed and Elrahir shot at the cake, Merrick managed to grab the jug. He splashed some of the contents over the cake, but it had no effect. Seeing that it was water, he tossed more or less the entire contents over the demonic dessert. It was slowly moving around the kitchen, sticking the group to the floor and slowly chipping away at their hit points with its slam attack. It was Elrahir who finally decided to take a bite. His teeth sank into the soft sponge with its delicious caramel filling and sweet buttercream. He felt a sugar rush as he gained temporary hit points, dealing the same amount in damage to the cake. Alistair was next to chow down, followed by Calla. Merrick was too far away and, still unable to free himself from the tacky floor, he yelled to the others to save some for him. It did not take long for the 4 of them to devour the cake. Merrick took the jug, a jug of alchemy, with him. The timer was ticking down. They made their way through the final doorway on the ground floor. This seemed to be the main living room. A large grand piano sat on a suspiciously plush-looking rug. 3 decorative suits of armour were posed against the walls. A dining table was set for a large dinner party. A sofa and chairs were placed by a fire, a table between them with things on it. There was another cabinet and a globe in the corner. A door led off to what they presumed must be another room. Elrahir's interest was piqued by the globe, and he began to move towards it, being careful to avoid any rugs. Calla went to look at the cabinet, Merrick and Alistair hanging back slightly, distrustful but scanning for the diamond. Without warning, Calla and Elrahir both found themselves struck by hard blows as 2 of the suits of armour began to move and attack them. Calla, in particular, was being hit hard. The group focused most of their assaults on the one hurting her, Merrick casting Hunter's Mark on the one attacking Elrahir, and almost taking it out single-handedly. Alistair was anxious to get Calla to safety. As the group fought, it became clear that the helmed horror was a lot tougher than they had anticipated. Alistair, confident the other three could handle it, dashed up the stairs. As he did so, he activated a grease trap, managing to avoid falling down the stairs as the slippery oil began to coat them. As the ranged attackers tried to keep their distance, Merrick backed into the third suit of armour which struck out at him. Calla was the first to go down, her half-orc fortitude saving her from unconsciousness and keeping the moonbeam she had cast on the helmed horror up. She and Elrahir were now taking the brunt of the damage, Merrick fending off his attacker whilst Alistair, oblivious, was beginning to investigate the doors in the corridor upstairs. Elrahir dropped to the helmed horror as the animated armour also closed in on him. Calla was able to heal Elrahir, allowing the half-elf to try to make a melee attack lying on his back. He missed. The helmed horror kept its attacks focused on Calla, the animated armour now aware that Elrahir was not dead and going for him again, but missing. Calla dropped, this time with nothing to bring her back up. Upstairs, Alistair had checked the 3 doors on one side of the narrow hallway. All were magically locked, but seemingly untrapped. Realising that his friends had not yet joined him, he decided to head back down to find them. He arrived in time to see Calla, unconscious, and Elrahir barely conscious. With his aid, the party were able to fell the helmed horror, but it was a hard battle. This is where we will leave them for now, an hour left on the mysterious timer, and still no sign of the diamond they need to save Septima.